Hello, my name is Howard Lazarus. I'm the Executive Director of Delaware County. I want to thank you for taking the time to view this presentation. Our goal today is to provide an overview of the requirements for the $110 million Delaware County will receive under the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, A-R-P-A. We'll summarize the uses to date, and then we want to seek your input on potential uses for the remaining funds. Please send your ideas to arpa@co.delaware.pa.us. Informing your thoughts, you may want to refer to the ARPA Recovery Plan, which is available at www.delco.gov/PDF/ARPA Recovery Plan August 2021.pdf. Let's begin with an overview of the American Rescue Plan Act and provide some general information. ARPA provides funds to local governments to respond to the COVID-19 emergency and bring back jobs. The Act establishes 4 general categories of uses for funds, which we'll address on the next page. ARPA funds have to be obligated by December 31st of 2024, which means they need to be committed to a contract or a project, and all the costs need to be paid for or expended by December 31st, 2026. As a recipient, the county must submit a quarterly project and expenditure report starting on January 31st of this year. We have just submitted that first report thanks to the work of county staff. Recipients must provide a recovery plan performance report by July 31st of each year. Our first report, as I previously mentioned, is posted on the county's webpage. In total, the county will receive a total of $110,083,961. Let's go through the allowable uses under ARPA. Revenue loss with broad discretion to provide government services. Response to the COVID-19 public health emergency and its negative impacts. We can provide premium pay for certain eligible workers performing essential work performed at any time since the start of the COVID-19 public health emergency. We can use the funds for investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. And finally, a small amount of the available funds can be used to administer the program. The next page shows the updated U.S. Treasury Guidance. The final rule, which Treasury is responsible for, was released on January 7th and is effective April 1st. The final rule provides additional clarification to recipients on what's allowable and what's not. So as we relook at the allowable uses, public health and negative economic impacts, the final rule allows that funds can be used for capital or permanent structure expenditures that support an eligible COVID-19 public health or economic response. It also provides an expanded set of impacted or disproportionately impacted households and communities, which are eligible for a broader set of uses for ARPA funds, including affordable housing, childcare, early learning services, and community development and neighborhood revitalization, with the understanding that those particular impacted households and neighborhoods were disproportionately affected by the pandemic. The final rule also provides a broader set of uses to restore and support government employment. Under the heading of premium pay, the final rule broadens the share of essential workers who can receive premium pay without a justification while maintaining a focus on lower income and frontline essential workers. The next page addresses revenue loss, and the final rule does allow a standard allowance of $10 million over the entire performance period, which is 2020 through 2024, and allows recipients to choose between the standard amount or a full revenue loss calculation. This is very much like doing your income taxes when you can take a standard deduction, or you can choose to itemize, which puts a broader burden on you to show where the expenses went. The $10 million amount is not likely to be useful for Delaware County, as we have estimated a larger revenue loss due to COVID. The final rule also expands the uses for water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, primarily to address challenges with broadband that deal with access, affordability, and reliability, and it adds different types of water and sewer infrastructure investments which were not initially spelled out, and those include a broad range of lead remediation projects and stormwater management projects. Let's take a moment and see how the county has used the money that we've received so far. Last July, we received a total of $55 million, or half the total that is committed to the county. The uses are shown on this slide, and I'd like to emphasize a few of them. Under the heading of negative economic impacts, we have set funding aside to help with back-to-work programs as well as assisting small businesses. Notably, over $6 million was used to cover operating and startup costs for the Delaware County Health Department. And we've also allocated money to the Greenways and Open Space program to encourage people to get out and exercise, which has proven to be effective in mitigating the impacts of COVID. When we take that $9.6 million out, we still carry forward over $45 million. When added to the $55 million that we'll receive this coming July, shows that there is still $100 million of funds to be used. When we looked at the 2022 budget, we did take $8 million of the calculated revenue loss and applied it to the current operating year. We've also used $5 million to provide for child care expenses and child care support. We've used $7.9 million for the operating costs for the county health department. Our district attorney has put forward a gun violence prevention program at a cost of $1 million. And then budget management is set aside another $2.5 million for future COVID response costs, including continuing efforts related to the Omicron variant. Those uses in the 2022 budget total $24.45 million, which means we have a total of $76 million left. So how are we going to use that fund? If we look at the next page, you can see that we still have $9.5 million available for estimated revenue losses in the year 2023 and 2024. We're going to continue to fund the next 2 years of the health department at $7.5 million a year for a total of $15 million, and also ongoing COVID response at a cost of $2.5 million per year for a total of $5 million. And then this slide also shows an estimated 2% of the total going towards administrative costs. Those uses together that are allocated but not yet budgeted come to $31.46 million, leaving a total remaining unallocated of just over $44.5 million. And this is where your thoughts come in. While Council is looking at putting aside $36 million for economic development and $4 million for community justice, those funds are still available for programming. Even after that $40 million is taken into account, there's still almost $4.5 million that's under-programmed and available for community uses. So Council is seeking your input on the potential uses of the total of $44.5 million in remaining funding. We ask that you submit your ideas to arpa@co.delaware.pa.us, including the following pieces of information: a description of how your idea relates to the allowable uses, an estimate of the required funding, and the entity that will be the point of contact for the development of your idea and that which is responsible for managing the funds. Again, I want to thank you for taking the time to go through this presentation, and we look forward to hearing your ideas at arpa@co.delaware.pa.us.